Good evening, everybody. Good to see you all out. Thank you for joining us here at the Potter's House Church. We appreciate you making the time to be here as we worship God. As we tonight, we're gonna have a great time. We've got a friendship seminar, and I've got a great friend of mine that's going to be coming in all the way from Brisbane. I've been friends with him for numbers of years. And one thing in life that everyone would benefit from is you get good friends around you. Very great biblical principles there that will help you. But also, the thing that will help you is that you become a good friend as well. So I appreciate everyone tuning in tonight, no matter where you are, whether you're in New Zealand, whether you're in Australia, no matter around the world, wherever you are. We're going to have some fun tonight. And so I appreciate you making the time. Tonight, we're going to have some questions as well at the end. So if there's any questions you want to ask Pastor Sean, send them through, and then I'll be viewing the live stream at the same time, and I can ask Pastor very soon. But without further ado, all the way from Brisbane, Australia, let's welcome out Pastor Sean Reeves. What?
Hello.
How you doing, mate? How you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah, good, man. Can you hear me? Can I go loud and clear?
I can hear you fine. I appreciate that you're wearing a jacket. Are you wearing a jacket just out of sympathy for us here in New Zealand that actually experienced the cold? Like, what's it like over there in Brisbane? Is it a cold day? Is it like
freezing today, man.
23?
No, it is freezing. It is freezing. To give you guys some perspective, I'll give you accurate stats, accurate readings. It's right. 15.2 degrees. 15. I just checked that. And
you poor
I mean, honestly, like, I had the heater on at 26. It's cold, man. It's freezing.
We're praying for you, and we're praying that God will protect you through the cold snap that you're experiencing. No, man, but thank you so much for coming out. You're a great friend of mine, but also to our congregation. If you don't know Pastor Sean, he's preached in our church numbers of times. He's building up a great church over there in Logan, in South Brisbane. So if you've got any family out there, make sure you send them over to the Logan church. I've preached there numbers of times. It's got a great congregation. They've got a great spirit, just like him. And his wife, he's married to, his wife's name is Mary. He's got two beautiful girls. We've got a picture here of his family, of Estelle and Ava. What a beautiful family, right? Man, what a beautiful family. This is why you need to marry up in life, so your kids are good looking. And so, no, he's got a beautiful family, a great church, a great man of God. And so I appreciate you, Pastor, making the time to join us tonight and help us in our friendships. And so I'm just going to ask you a few questions this evening. And let's see that hopefully people can be strengthened and people can be helped. We can be better friends, and we can make better friends and give us stability long term. So the first question I want to ask you is why is friendship so important to a healthy life?
Firstly, let me say this. I got to say thank you. Obviously, you didn't let me kind of say anything besides the weather. So thank you so much for the opportunity just to chill tonight. And that's the way that I got to program my mind, because every time I've been there, it's always been kind of preaching and everything. So now this is chilling. So to make myself feel comfortable, I'm just treating this like a nice casual Friday night. I got myself a can of Coke right here. Because we're friends, I got some Sour Patch Kids things that I've just been eating. I've got about 10 left. Sorry, I got hungry. And I got a water as well for you. But other than that, looking forward to talking about some friendship goals tonight.
Thank you for the water. I appreciate it. I got my coffee. I'm good. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, I mean, I'm just letting you know I'm making myself comfortable for however long we're going tonight. But I mean, look, to answer the question off the back of my gratitude for being here, and shout out to all of the church, everybody there. Obviously, love you guys, pray for you guys all the time. And you guys hold a special place in our heart. But I mean, look, friendship being important to us having health. I think it's quite honestly, we're relational beings. God designed us that way. We're made up with emotions and all sorts of different facets of who we are as people. But the fundamental ingredient of who we are, I think, it's relational. And when it comes to not being in relationship, well, if you weren't in relationship with people, what that would look like is isolation. And I mean, the person who kind of lives on their own and never ventures out and doesn't have friends, generally speaking, without being crass or rude, they're generally weird. There's a reason that they're alone. And their alone isolation does things to them. It's in places of isolation that we can wander in our minds and we begin to think all these whack things. And then sometimes we act upon those thoughts and it ain't cool. You know what I mean? Like we do some crazy things in isolation. So I think, to summarize, it would be health is found in relationships. It can't be found on its own. There's that quote, an idle mind is the devil's playground. You know what I mean? It's when we're on our own in our mind, we give access to the devil just to kind of do what he wants to do. I've got to turn my phone on silent. I'm getting text messages on the side over here. But think about it. If an idle mind is the devil's playground, what would an idle life look like? What would a life separated from other people look like? I think it's potentially destructive. And, look, before I throw the mic back to you, when we're talking about a healthy life being in connection with people, again, the opposite of that would be an isolated life. Isolation, what does that produce within us? It can produce loneliness, and loneliness can produce negativity, and negativity can lead us down a path of depression. And if we want to take it all the way to the edge, ultimately, and New Zealand can understand this, particularly in the younger demographic, suicidal tendencies can be born out of isolated experiences. So to encapsulate health is to negate isolation. We've got to be in connection, lest we become isolated and then enter into loneliness, which is negative.
Yeah, that's really good. I like how you put it that way. How the devil's
idle mind's the devil's playground.
That's the one I was getting to. But how an idle life really is something that the devil can use against all the plans and purposes of God. And many times, you're right. Many times I've been isolated in my thoughts, and I'm thinking something crazy, and I'll speak to you, and you'll listen out, and you'll be like, yeah, no, you're not going to do that. Because by myself, if I didn't run it past someone, or if I didn't have a friend there, you're right, I'd make bad choices. And it's one thing just to have a bad thought, but many people don't have that friend to bounce things off or to speak to, and then those bad thoughts turn into bad actions. So very, very good.
Yeah,
That's very helpful. So on the back of that, so what's the purpose of a friend? Like what is the role of a friend maybe, or the purpose of friendship?
I mean, I think everyone's different. Every person kind of requires different things for different phases and intervals of their life. But I think when you break down what the big picture of, a quality friendship would be, it would be to empower us and build us up. I think, like I said, off the back of the health in connection with people, life is all about progression. Stagnation and remaining the same is not how we were designed. God designed us to constantly be growing and constantly be moving forward. And there's a problem when we're not moving forward. And I think one of the mechanisms for growth and change and development and enlargement, it's the people that are placed in our lives as friends. Quality friendships have the ability to empower us and help us to get to that next level in our life, to get to that next phase. And so when I think about what's the purpose of a friend, I would think the purpose of a friend is ultimately to help us get to our purpose in Christ. Look, I'm not a genius in this regard. I got no idea in the grand scheme of things, but in my understanding of what the purpose of a friend would be, that's up there. Ultimately, we're designed with purpose. We're designed to move forward. And I think a good way to look at the purpose of a friend would be, all right, well, the purpose of my friend is to help me get to purpose.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's very good. I'm writing notes now, and I'm going to preach a sermon next week, basically saying everything that you're saying. So that's very good. If you can keep going, that'll be great. But I love that. You're so true, because there's people that we're working with, and they're progressing in the things of God, and they're very close. And then they'll stop progressing in the things of God. And one of the things that they'll do is that they'll start to isolate themselves. And you can never progress. I like how you said that. You can never progress without your friends. That's the whole purpose of it, to reach new heights, new destiny, and new strengths that you couldn't do by yourself. Bible
Yeah,
speaks about that,
100%.
and I think in Ecclesiastes, two are better than one. They get a reward for their labor. They can overcome
Yeah.
so many things there. And so, yeah, that's very good.
Mm.
And I think everyone listening online, or hopefully you want to reach your purpose and destiny in God, and your close friends anyway, will get you through and to see those purposes. I know that's true for my life, very, very in particular. That is the cornerstone for my life. Very good. Thank you for that. Next question we have is, the Bible says that bad company corrupts good habits. And so, what are some things we can look for in people that you hang around that might hinder your progress that we're just talking about and to getting to your purpose? What are maybe some characteristics or some things that we should avoid or we should just be cautious of that will stop us from changing character, changing our life, and not reaching those purposes in God?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a huge possibility. When we were just speaking, obviously, about purpose, and the purpose of a friend is to help us discover our purpose and thrive within our purpose for Christ, ultimately. Sometimes the biggest hindrance and the denial of our destiny is friends. Friends can be incredibly rewarding, and there can be a great blessing and benefit to friendship. But the wrong friends can rob us of destiny, can rob us of our purpose, and ultimately stagnate it and cause us to never get there. There's the scripture in Proverbs 13 where it says, when you hang out with the wise, you'll become wise, but when you hang out with fools, you'll be a fool. In our Friday night friendship seminar language, that would be, if your friends are fools, you're going to be a fool.
Come on.
If your friends are silly, you're likely going to go down a path of silliness. And I guess, before we answer the question, some of those things that can hinder, I think something that I've always tried to maintain is, I want to know the type of people that I'm hanging out with. So I guess I need to define personally what I want them to be before I align with them. And so for our mindset, it would be define before you align, right? If we're going to align ourselves with people and we're going to link our lives alongside brothers and sisters, we need to define what sort of characteristics and attributes they have. Like, think about it. There are young girls tonight that are probably going to self-harm because their friends are self-harming.
That's right.
There are guys right now that are going to be celebrating their 18th, 19th, 20th birthday in a prison cell because the boys thought it would be cool to roll that dude for his Jordans. You know what I mean? Right. And so if you can't define the certain characteristics that you want in a friend before you align with them, you could be getting yourself into some trouble. So saying all of that, I think the things that could hinder, ultimately, you got to think about it. Is there an agenda behind the relationship? What are they getting out of the friendship? Think about it. Like, there might be somebody listening tonight and you got to think, are they friends with me for a reason other than just wanting to be with me? Like, are they coming because they're getting sex? It's like all the young girls, they're always mates with the boys because they don't want to hang out with the girls because the girls are just so catty. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way that they phrase it. And they're hanging out with these boys because the boys are somehow making them feel special. But do they really want to be your friend? Or are they just using you because you give to them sexually? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, this is Friday night, so we're kicking back and being a little bit real.
I don't know what you're saying. So, can you get into greater detail for me, please? I don't really comprehend those terms.
I think, like, is there an agenda? What's the friendship motivated by? Are they getting something out of it? Is it selfishly motivated? Is there sex? Do they hang out with you because you always pay for everything? Are they hanging out with you because? Are they hanging out with you because you somehow boosted it up in the popularity department, and by them being seen with you, it works in their favor. So I think you got to analyze, is the relationship motivated by something that is flawed? And then also, what's the foundation of the friendship? Is it, something shallow and meaningless? Is it sports? Or is there more depth to it? And I think for us as believers, we have faith, we have God, we have something so great to build our lives upon. So something as well that you kind of got to think about as a hindrance is there always drama when you're with that person?
Oh, yeah.
Is there always conflict? Like, are there problems? Are you always having to defend them to other people?
Yeah.
Like you go into the room and everyone's like, man, that guy you're mates with, he's this, that, and the other. And you're like, no, he's cool, man. He's my boy. And you're always having to defend them. That's not normal.
Yeah.
Like, there's a problem. And so you got to kind of break it down and define, are they speaking behind your back? Are you telling them things and then all of a sudden everybody knows what you've been doing?
Yeah.
And so I think that there's plenty of different things that can hinder. Ultimately, we've gone down a different path. I don't even know what the question is. We've got to look for people that have integrity. We've got to look for people that are honest, that have loyalty, that will follow through when they speak to you about certain things. What do you think? Make sense?
That makes perfect sense. That's very, very good. I liked all of that. I wrote down that define before you align. You got to find what you're searching for before you can cross things out. And I think people don't do that. They have nothing to aim for, so they hit nothing, and they think that's that they made it. And so anyone could be a good friend.
Yeah.
And so that's very good. The dramas and all that, and integrity and loyalty, that's missing a lot today. Integrity and loyalty. It's like people are friends for a number of years, and then they sort of gap it from each other, and they have one little hissy fit, and then they don't talk to each other, and we don't talk with them, and we sit on this side of the church now because they're on that side of the church, or that's it. I'm leaving the church because she said this about me, but there's no loyalty or integrity or even humility, really, like to get your heart right with that person. So that was very good. I think one example in the Bible, Rehoboam, it's in 1 Kings 12, like he becomes king, and instead of listening to wise people, he just listened to his friends, and it ruined him. And I think some people like you said, surround themselves with the wrong people, and this guy's the king, and it really ruined him. And God can elevate us, but if we still hang around and listen to those bad people in our life, those bad influences, it will bring us back down and further away from the purposes of God. That was very, very good. So that's all that side of it. So I want to ask you a question. This one's maybe a bit deeper, but what will be the difference between a bad friend and a friend who just simply made a mistake? Like, many people go through problems with friends, and we all have that. And I don't think you could say you're good friends with someone because you've never had an argument. You're probably not even good friends if you've never had an argument, right? So what would you define as this person, I probably shouldn't hang around them because they're causing drama, as opposed to a good friend who just maybe made a mistake or an error of judgment? How can you get the tension right in those two levels?
I think bad friends don't know how to humble themselves, whereas good friends do. That's the difference between somebody who's a bad friend and somebody who makes mistakes. Good friends, they're humble enough to acknowledge that they made a mistake that has damaged the relationship and caused it to be fractured. Somebody who's not a good friend is somebody who's driven by pride and ego, and they can't see that their actions are one-sided and detrimental to the longevity of the relationship. They're just constantly peddling their agenda and speaking disrespectfully and condescendingly. And even if you say to them, hey, bro, like, this is the way that it made me feel, this is what it looked like when you did that, and they're like, oh, yeah, whatever, just get over it, don't be a silky pansy or whatever. They have a go at you. I think that's pride, and that's something that you need to kind of be aware of and ultimately make a decision with, if that's the foundation that you want to keep building on in your relationship. But I mean, look, we all make mistakes, and I've made plenty of mistakes with friends No doubt you have, and others, that are listening. And I just think if we're not honest and humble enough to acknowledge it, then that's a huge red flag and a huge problem. I think the way to overcome it, though, and deal with it is always the biblical way, and that's to respond by going and speaking to them. If you're offended or you're upset, or there's some sort of conflict, or there's a problem, or they did something that kind of caught you by surprise, you got to hit them up. You got to go and talk to them, because it can do two things. One, it can expose that they're an idiot, or it can actually redeem them and help them. And ultimately, that's you being a real friend. If you don't have the mindset like, I got to be real with them, then you got to check the depth of the relationship. Like,
that's right.
So many people have breadth with relationship. Like, they have a lot of relationships. Like, they're super connected, man. They got heaps of followers on Facebook and Instagram, but they have no depth in any relationship. They can't be real about anything in their life. And they throw out, posts of them working out at the beach and, walking the dog, and they get these likes on it, and they somehow think that it's fulfillment. That's not fulfillment. That's shallow. Like, that's just, it doesn't make sense. So if you're going to be a real friend, you got to go and talk to them and say, "Boy, look, this is how it made me feel." And if they are humble enough to receive it, you got yourself a good friend there. But if they can't receive it and they arc up, then you got to walk away. And I think another fact to throw on the end there is, obviously, by being aware of their mindset and then being willing to go to them, is you got to pray for your friends, and you got to seek God's heart for the relationship. And that might sound really weird, and like maybe I should light some candles because this is going to get romantic. But I think, if you're praying for your friends and you're praying for your relationships, that's really healthy, because it helps you weed through the potential problems and kind of the murky waters that can sometimes go undealt with. Because when you're contending for God to be involved in the relationship, it's going to be healthy.
Yeah. That's very good. And what you're saying is how you live your life. And you're not just saying that's advice and you don't actually live like that. Like, we've been friends for numbers of years, and there was a time I did something incredibly prideful and something incredibly stupid. And you brought it up with me, and we dealt with it in like 20 minutes, and it was over, and you were incredibly humble about it. And that's what's kept our friendship going so long and so strong as well. And those issues that you bring up, that you brought up, especially that time, those are the areas that I'm lacking in. So that's something I can work on. And that's why our friends are supposed to bring us closer to our purpose and destiny in God. Yep. And so if a friend points something out, you can be either really prideful and be like, "Nah, what the hell, man? You don't know my feelings and this and that, but you don't really understand." And yeah, maybe whatever. But thank God we've got someone that can fix those areas, because there's a lot of people out there, like you said, their friendship, they've got a lot of breadth in their friendship. They've got people who are friends, but it's all shallow. So they stay the same level year after year after year, and they never grow, they never move forward. And I just wish, I'm like, don't you have one friend that could tell you, "Dude, you're being an idiot"? Like, don't you have anyone that could be like, "Man, look what you're doing. Why can't you see this?" And that's why I'm very grateful that my friends can point out those issues, because who else is going to point them out? Unless we've got some friends that we give access to. Not everyone. I'm not talking about everyone you meet. You're going to have this deep and meaningful relationship. But I could probably count on one hand that I've got people that they have access into my life. And if I go off a little bit funny, or if I'm doing something that's not, particularly correct or could be better, they have access to speak to me and help me so I can grow. Because heck, I don't want to stay the same person forever. Forget that, man. Like, I want to look back and be like, "Man, what a horrible friend I was back then," because I've moved forward. But some people are like, "Man, I was a great friend," but they've never changed. They're exactly the same. Like, there should be an elevation in our friendship, in our maturity, in our character. And all those are very good. I've written down heaps of them. So thank you for that. That helps. All right, next question is a very simple question. So how do you make good friends? Maybe there's someone out there that's like, "Man, my friends stink. My friends are mud. They're only out there for my good looks, and I had that problem too. They just followed me for my good looks all the time, And so how can you make some friends that are good friends that will see you through?
I think, making good friends starts by being a good friend. You can't expect others to do what you're not willing to do yourself. And so if you want them to do or be something, but you're not willing to do or be that yourself, then you're kidding yourself. People have all of these expectations of the people around them in life. And many times when there's conflict and there's a problem, it's always the other person's fault. You know what I mean? It's always,
That's right.
why aren't they a good friend? Well, why weren't they thinking of me? Why did they forget my birthday? And why didn't and why didn't they consider the way that it would make me feel? And they bought themselves a coffee. Why didn't they buy me a coffee? And it's like, we have all of these expectations of people, but it's like, dude, look in the mirror. It's like, how do you treat those around you? How do you behave? Because I think if you are focused on yourself, not focused on making good friends, but you're just focused on being a good friend and speaking appropriately and showing love and learning about the people around you, who they are, what makes them tick, what makes them satisfied. Find out their love languages. And that, again, it might seem sappy, but lean into that and serve if they're words of affirmation. Begin to compliment them if they're acts of service. Begin to serve if they're quality time. Go and, shoot hoops and just talk and spend time together. And it's by you doing those things that the good friends are actually made. I don't think we can just say, all right, I'm going to make a good friend today, and you're the one that I'm going to be good friends with.
Yeah.
It's cultivated over a period of time, making deliberate investments in people's lives, being intentional. But ultimately, the main thing is just to really focus on yourself and being the best person that you can be to be a blessing to those around you. And ultimately, people will gravitate to you.
Yeah, that's very good. Very good. Basically, you're saying friendship takes work. And if you put in the work, you reap what you sow, really. All the things you want to see in a friend, if you do that, that'll come back to you. It was funny how you mentioned birthdays, though. It was like 3 years. Was it 3 or 4 years that me and you, we missed each other's birthday every year? And then we'll message the next day and we're like, was it your birthday yesterday? It was like, flip. How did I forget? Again, for 4 years. And then I remember the first one, I think you got it. It was 11:30 at night and you texted me, happy birthday. And I was like, dang it, man. I was so hoping that you'd forget so I wouldn't feel as bad. So you got to see past those little immature things and just move on and hopefully remember, I'm a bad friend. Am I bad? I'm a bad friend. Sean, sorry. All right. Those things are very good. All right. How's it? So you have touched on this a little bit, but just say you're surrounded by a lot of people, and you wanted to sort of narrow and get a deeper friendship with just a few, like all of us. So, what would be some things you value in others that you'd sort of invest a bit more into them to be a friend to them? What were some sort of characteristics that you value that you would press in and you'd invest in those types of people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, firstly, the reason I think that it's important to have a smaller inner circle of friends in the large crowd of friends is because they're the people ultimately that are going to have the characteristics that I'll probably define now. We can have larger group gatherings and a lot of, friends. But sometimes that's just the crowd. And even when Jesus, he ministered to large crowds, but then he separated with 12 disciples and then separated with 3 of those 12, And it's not, exclusivity or favoritism, but it's just different levels and depth of relationship. And so firstly, that's a really good thing that we would want that. And so firstly, we got to kind of clarify that. But then the second thing would be the characteristics of the people that you would look for. I think for me personally, and everyone might be different, but I think loyalty is really important. That they're going to have your back, and sometimes having your back means also challenging you about things that are wrong in your life. So that would be honesty, and they have to be truthful. A lot of people like to surround themselves with yes men, people that will please them and prop them up and help them feel good about themselves, but they won't tell you your blind spots. And I think real friendship and things that I value are people that will know the real me. Like not the enhanced version of me, not the photoshopped version, with all of the perfect lighting and, the best angle. But, they know the 4 a.m. me, you know what I mean? Like sleep in my eyes, coming out, like get out of my face. They know like me when I'm not feeling well, but at the same time, they accept, they love, they continue to empower, and they also don't freak out when they see the real version of me. Sometimes friendships crumble because it's been so superficial, and then they see, beneath the surface, and they're like, man, I don't know if I can handle the baggage that you have. But when they can see the baggage, but still understand who you are, like, for example, obviously we're pastors of churches, and there's probably people that are listening that are not pastors of churches. You could call me and say, man, I'm having a bad day today. And I'm not going to go, whoa, are you saved? Like, I don't know if you're equipped and qualified to pastor the church because you're having a bad day. Don't you know you're a pastor and pastors are always supposed to be happy and having good days? I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be like, yeah, what's going on, man? And just listen. That's something that I think is really valuable as well, where I'm not going to immediately write you off when I see the real you. Yeah. And I think that that's something that I value in friends, where they can see the 4 a.m. version of me, not the photoshopped enhanced version. And they can say, yeah, man, he's all good. Like, yeah, he's having a bad day, but I know his character. I know his heart. I know his convictions. And just because he's having a moment doesn't mean that he is an idiot. You know what I'm saying? Like, they know the real version of me. And that's something that I look for and I value. And something that I really value, the last one, I think that's super important, is as I want to have friends that will speak into my life with faith and not feelings. Because so many times people, they're governed by feelings, and in friendship, if you're governed by feelings, man, you can end up in a prison cell. You can end up, doing something crazy, pregnant, all sorts of things that, are destructive. And so I want friends that won't just speak into my life or ride with feelings, but they'll speak into my life and ride with faith. Yeah. Like if I want to go and slash someone's tires because they've annoyed me, my friend won't be like, man, hold up, let me go get that knife. And they're off going to get it. No, but they'll say, man, that's not cool. Like, think, dude, what's wrong with you? You got to have faith about the situation, not just always feelings. And that's the sort of things that I value.
Yeah. Yeah. Does
that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay?
100%. That makes complete sense. And
Side note, I don't slash tires anymore. Okay.
That's because I'm not in Brisbane. Because when you called me that time to slash the tires, no, he did it. I would have been there in a heartbeat. I was like, let's get it.
It's a weekly feeling, man. It's a weekly feeling. Sunday nights, sometimes on the way home from church, it's like, man, I want to go slash some tires, man. Bomb's my sermon tonight.
What I value in you, Sean, is that like there's been a couple of times, but that I've spoken to you, and I've been up all in my feelings, and there's certain things that get to you, and there's certain we all experience heartbreak in life, and I think if you don't have a good friend to talk to, you can't process those moments. Like you stay stuck in those moments, you don't get through. And there's been times I've spoken to you about certain issues, and you were awesome because you didn't tell me, well, Dan, you need to do this and you need to do that and A, B, C, D, and you better get onto it. It was like, yeah, okay, cool. And you sort of let me speak to you about those things. And then you really pushed back on faith. You really founded it based on faith. You said, remember we spoke about this and God has said this and God's word says this and this is what God's going to do. And you kept pushing those things. We even looked back at some previous victories in the past. You're like, God did it back then, and God can do it. God could do it again today. And then I remember the next morning, like, you sent me a song, like a faith building song. You're like, I'm praying this song. I'm at prayer right now, and I'm praying for you. And those things really, really helped me. You sent me scriptures, and even though I probably didn't show it straight away, but those things really, really helped me know that there's a purpose to all of this, and I'm going to get through it.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
those are very good
I think if I can say one thing, you know, off the back of that, I think something that we really need to embed into our minds is the concept of godly relationships, godly friendships, and understanding that there's always a greater right to what we're feeling. And sometimes, you know, for example, somebody might come to you as a friend and be speaking about something, and they are actually right about the situation. You know, they have been offended, they have been let down, they have been violated. You know, there's been something significant that's damaged them, and they've come to you. And the way that they're feeling is actually justified. In other words, it's right. But many times, because we're believers and we're driven by faith, not feelings, many times there's a greater right to the right. And the greater right is always, what does God say and what does God's word say? And I think, you know, off the back of what you just said, that's probably something that I've really tried to implement into the way that I govern my relationships. That even though, you know, I am a very loyal friend, and, you know, prior to salvation, you know, I was a loyal friend as well, even though I was dogged by people. You know, as a friend, if my friends were in trouble, I was there to fight with them. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes we want to do that as Christians, but the greatest way that we can actually fight for them is to direct them to truth and direct them to Jesus, and get God involved. And that is the greatest way that we can actually help our friends. Not going out there and cracking some heads and, you know, slashing tires and, you know, getting revenge. That's not the way we help our friends. The greatest way that we will fight for our friends is to direct them to truth. And they might not want to hear it, but, you know, you got to just speak it, pray it, and emulate it yourself, and just be willing to be there for them on that journey while they make their own decision.
Yeah, that's very good. I like that part about the greater right. Yeah, you have a case. Yeah, you got ripped off. Yeah, that person did this. Yeah. Cool. But the greater right is to be Christ-like through it all. Yeah, you have a right. 100%. You can go tear them to pieces. You can do, yeah, you have a right to do that. But the greater right is to be merciful to those, to turn the other cheek, to pray for those who use you, and keep loving and wash Judas' feet and not get all arrogant.
Yeah, all those amazing scriptures, right? The ones we love.
I know. If it was up to me, I'd like tear him out the Bible and preach from that. But anyway, we've got a few more questions, and then we'll wrap up tonight. These have been really good. Yeah, cool. And on the live chat, Sean, just so you know, people are like putting fire emojis and like knife stabbing stuff, and so everyone says it, and so that's just so you know, everyone's really getting into it online. So
okay, cool.
This sort of follows on from what we're talking about. If your friend is struggling, just say your friend that's struggling, let's say more so spiritually. Just say if someone's struggling spiritually, what are some things you could do to help them? You know, obviously everyone's different, and there's not like a one size fits all on this. But what are some things you could do to help them besides, you know, just going and backsliding with them? But what would be something that would actually help them in their faith?
Okay, so are we talking about a friend who is completely backslidden, or they're kind of on their way out the door spiritually?
I'd say both. Maybe we'll start with those that are on the way out, and then maybe address it if they are completely backslidden.
I think the most important thing that you can do with a friend who's struggling spiritually or backslidden is show genuine care for them as a person and as a friend. Yeah. And what I mean by that is many times we can have this tendency to want to change their behavior. You know, we look at what they're doing, we look at the way that they're behaving, and we go and we say, dude, your behavior is out of line. But the behavior is just the fruit. The root is their heart. You know, and you can go to them and say, man, why did you go out with the boys and drink last night? Man, why did you, you know, slide into that guy's DMs. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. And you're a guy. What the hell, man?
You have like these, this agenda that by changing their behavior, you're somehow going to fix them as a person. But I think the most important thing is to not look at the fruit of their problems, but to look at the root, which is their heart. Why are they behaving the way that they're behaving? Why are they thinking the way that they're thinking?
Yeah.
Why are they speaking the way that they're speaking? Like, if they're on their way out of the door, what was it that got them to that place? And show genuine care for them as a person. Speak to them as a friend. Don't go to them and challenge them from a negative, condescending, cynical perspective. I think the most important thing is we've got to show care for them as a person. And then once you've heard them out, you've listened, something that can be forgotten, you've got to follow up on them. Similar to what you just said a moment ago about the time that we spoke of your struggle, we spoke about it. And then I wasn't just like, yeah, I'm going to pray for you, man. And, didn't I just go off and do my thing? There's one thing that actually kind of frustrates me. And it's when you talk to people and they say, I'm going to pray for you. Because I've said this to people before. I've said, will you? like, will you really pray? Because I don't believe some people when they tell me they're going to pray for me.
100%.
And then
100%.
They send you like the hands, the praying emoji, and it's like,
come on now,
man, I just told you something deep in my heart, something that's tearing me up inside, something that I'm really struggling with, and you shoot me back a praying hands emoji, man. It's like that's not good enough. And it's not that I want them to fix my problem, but it's kind of like show a little bit of care for me as a person. And then I think following up, reaching out to them, and depending on the circumstance, sometimes you got to reach out to them daily. Yeah. Just constantly, not berating them, but just, bro, I'm here for you, praying for you. I love you, man. If you want to catch a coffee this Friday night, man, I'm free. Like, you want to do something, like just showing that you're there. Yeah. Is something that I think is really important. And I won't keep talking.
No, that was very good. Yeah, I think sometimes we can all go to that Christian jargon and be like, I'm praying for you because it sounds spiritual. But Jack, you're not praying for no one. You don't even pray. You weren't even at prayer at church. You came late to church. What are you talking about? You weren't even on the live stream and you're praying for me? Come on, man. What are you talking about? And so that's very good. Obviously, we do value prayer, and we're not taking it to the extreme. But there's those practical things of checking up on them and knowing that you care for them as a person, not just as a number in church. And I think as well, like if they're on the way out, like having that conversation with them is good, And just, I think all of us need to have our eyes open. Like if someone's struggling, don't wait for them to be backslidden for 3 months. Then you're like, oh, where's so-and-so? Have you seen, what happened to them? Where'd they go? And it's like, you can see all those things. And we don't expect everyone in the church to have pastor's eyes. Because we view our congregations very differently to how people in the church do. But we expect people to actually see if someone's struggling, to try their best to reach out to them and just say something before it gets to that stage where they've already crossed the line, stopped coming to church, they got tattoo 666 on their head. You know what I mean? You want to do it before it gets to that stage.
Yeah. You know what I think's important as well, off the back of that?
Yeah.
You mentioned just then, everyone's not always going to have pastor's eyes, and they're not always going to notice people leaving and whatnot. But if you call yourself a Christian, then what you really need to strive for is to be Christ-like, right? And so whether somebody is on their way out the door, or I think specifically to kind of elaborate on the question where you said if they're on their way out or they're completely backslidden. I think if they're on their way out, then you definitely need to show genuine care for them as a person and not simply just try to control their behavior, which you're defining as them backsliding, right? Because, they go out and they drink or they do something stupid, which we know is wrong, obviously. But sometimes people view the behavior as the problem. The external behavior is not the problem. The problem is the root, and that's their heart and what's going on internally. So it's looking at them as a person. But then if they ultimately do backslide, I think what's so important is that you're a Christian with them. And so what that means is you're Christ-like. So what is Christ like with those that deny him? Well, he still loves them,
Yeah.
right? He still has a care for them. He doesn't write them off and slag them and slander them. The only ones that he slags and slanders are the ones in the church that think that they got it all good
That's right.
and they got tithes on and they think that they're living it out. It's the Pharisees, man. The ones that are hypocritically just living this life. But the ones who say, man, I can't do this, and they walk away, well, Christ, he still died for them.
Yeah.
He loves them. The Bible says that he leaves the 99 in pursuit of the one.
Yeah.
He pursues them like the father and the prodigal son. He runs to the end of the driveway and slaughters the fattened calf and gives the ring and robe because it's a celebration when they come home. So if someone backslides, I think it's so important that we are a Christian. And what that means is we replicate Christ's characteristics. We don't judge them. We can judge the sin, but we don't judge them as a person.
Yeah.
We don't condemn them.
Yeah.
But then also, very importantly, we don't compromise our convictions for convenience and think, man, they're just going through a season, they're just going through a phase, and we just kind of tolerate it. No, I'm not saying that we tolerate it, but at the same time, I'm not saying that we go out there with stones and want to kill them. And I think if we kind of study out John chapter 8 a little bit deeper, we'll kind of understand what Christ was like. Because, and this is my last point about this, and then I'll stop talking. But in John chapter 8, when the Pharisees brought the woman caught in adultery to Jesus, what did they want? They wanted her killed because she was in sin. And so they're standing there upon truth, saying the law says that because she's in adultery and she's in sin, we need to kill her. That's what the law says. What do you say, Jesus? And Jesus goes, he draws a line in the sand, and he says, he who is without sin cast the first stone. And we know all of these Pharisees drop their stones and they turn around and walk away because they've sinned. But then Jesus, he turns to that woman who was caught in adultery. And think about it. They caught her in adultery. It's like, what sort of sicko catches a woman having sex and drags her out of the house? It's like, that's weird. But no one ever talks about that, right? No one ever talks about these religious church-going men dragging a naked woman out of a bed naked. But anyways, side note, and here it is. Jesus now looks at this woman who's been caught in adultery. He's drawn the line in the sand. All these religious guys have walked off. And then he says to her, don't judge you. That's what he says.
Yeah.
Like these men. But go and sin no more. And so what Jesus is doing is he's displaying grace and truth. All of those religious people, they just based their life on truth, but they didn't understand grace. And so many times what we can do if our friend backslides is we stand on truth. And we say, man, you're going to hell, you wicked, perverted loser, and I can never hang out with you again because your sin will jump on me and I'm not going to hell for you. And we can speak to them like that. And look, the truth is, that might be truth. But Jesus didn't just tell her truth, go and sin no more. He displayed grace. And he said, I'm not going to judge you. And so I think trying to find that tension, to use your word, because I know you don't like the word balance.
Correct.
Try to find that tension of grace and truth, where we will display grace to them for a season, but we'll also tell them the truth. And I think that that's what's really important when a friend is on their way out the door or they're completely backslid.
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good. Yeah, John 8 is a killer, as well as if you keep going in John, I think it's John 13 where Jesus washes Judas' feet, and that text where it says he loved them to the end. And these are the people that betrayed him. They're the ones that are going to leave him. They're the reason, Judas is the reason he gets crucified. Yet he loved them to the end. And I think we need to make sure that we're still showing love. And sometimes love is showing the truth. It's telling the truth.
Yeah.
The Bible says, "Faithful are the wounds of a friend." and that's why we need to build good friendships. So when they have those seasons, they can speak that truth into us in a loving way,
Yeah.
and we don't go down in that direction. So very good. Last question for you this evening, and then we'll let you go. Really appreciate your time, and these are very, very good answers to the questions. We appreciate that.
Hey man, it's Friday night. I got all the time in the world.
Yeah, but then Mary's gonna call me and be like, "Sean's supposed to be home with the kids. Why you keep talking to him all night?" So
She's fine. She's probably watching. She's probably watching.
yeah, what's up,
She's,
Mary?
I'll
Hey.
probably gonna get home and she'll be like, "Why were you slouching? Why were you yelling? Why did you drink so much Coke? Why were you?"
Oh man! All right, so last question for tonight. We could probably close with this: is what are the rewards of friendship? What are maybe the lifetime rewards or the present day rewards, or what will be the rewards of that work, that effort, that loyalty, that exampleship, that faithfulness, that humility, all those things? What will be the reward of that pays off back into your own life?
I just think, really simply and keeping it, very, very basic. It's just the memories and the moments of growth had along the journey. Knowing that you went through battles, you overcame some giants, and you're able to look back and celebrate those victories. I think that's for me one of the most rewarding things. It's a heartbreaking thing when you're friends with people and they don't make it, and they drop out of the race, they die, spiritually, and you're no longer together on the faith journey. But I think definitely being able to look back at all the wonderful experiences, families that have grown, and how you've grown as people, and the depth of your relationship has grown, and you're now benefiting from the fruits of the investments over the period of time. I think that's the most rewarding thing in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's very good. It gives you life like a richness, doesn't it? Like it gives you life a
Yeah.
depth that you can celebrate those times, those memories, and we've definitely had a lot of memories. I remember when you got sent out that night. You got sent out in Perth, and your first building, the stories of the first building when those homeless people and druggies broke into your building and started chasing you with a knife, and they were just
Crazy.
glorious days, And then, but seeing your church grow, you pioneered the church, and your churches grow, and seeing the people in your church grow, and then your family grow, and you bought a house, and how you've moved up, and your wisdom and your exampleship is it's awesome. We can have that sort of friendship, that you can see that, and you look back at those memories, and it definitely gives your life a depth and a richness. So great answer. But thank you. As we wrap up tonight, I appreciate, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I can say this in front of everyone, like, for all your friendship over the years, have been a great blessing to my life. And I know where I am today would not have been from all the times that we've been able to talk and try and communicate and work through issues in our own hearts, or more issues in my heart that you've helped work in. And you've been a great, loyal friend. And that's missing a lot today, but I am very, from the bottom of my heart, I can say that you've been a loyal friend to me for all these years. So thank you for that. You and Mary and the kids, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. From the bottom of my heart, thank you from behalf of our church. Our live audience says thank you as well.
Audience.
Yeah, no, honestly, thank you, man. And we'll definitely have to get you over preaching again or doing something again. And God's gonna, if we got some more time before Jesus comes back, I'm sure we'll have some more memories to share again.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this experience and what we're doing. Something different, obviously. Got to stay connected to people around the world, and obviously our churches and things, and the feelings are definitely mutual and reciprocated. And I value your friendship, and I'm grateful. And to the church there, obviously appreciate you, and the comments and things like that. Whatever, the swords and the stabbing. I know that would have been any comment that your pastor made. Because he's the slasher, and no doubt you're looking forward to a good weekend this weekend. So we're always praying for you guys and appreciate your friendship.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Pastor Sean. We appreciate that. One more thing I got to do. Pastor Sean doesn't know about this, but I had an announcement to make this evening. We can make that now. You may have seen in the news yesterday and today how police had updated their guidelines about churches and how that applies to us. You saw where they already had up to 10 people. You may have read on New Zealand Herald today, or a few of the other websites online, or heard on the radio, or you may have seen on the news how the police have changed their guidelines. It's no longer 100 for a place, 10 for a place of worship, maximum of 10. It has moved to a capacity of 100, excluding essential workers. So I've spoken to our church council. I've spoken to Richard and Lawrence. I've spoken to Pastor McGrath, our leader in New Zealand. I've spoken to my pastor, Pastor Elliott. I've spoken to New Zealand police to get advice and wisdom and clarification on what we should do as a church. And so as of this Sunday, the 24th of May, for the first time in 9 weeks, the Onehunga Potter's House will be back operating again. Amen. Amen. So we're back, and we're going to start back in church this Sunday, 10:30 in the morning, 6:30 at night, and I can't wait to see everybody again. First time in 9 weeks, we'll be able to gather together. And so just real quickly, I want to give you some guidelines. I want to let you know what's going to be happening. It's going to be a little bit different, but let me give you some guidelines real quickly. Number one, we are going to be still going to be social distancing. So the chairs are going to be separated about 1 meter apart. Unless you're a family and live in the same household, we'll set up some chairs that you can sit together. If you're not family, please sit separate. Please sit somewhere else and keep your distancing towards each other. Number one. Number two, we've got a picture here. We have to continue doing contact tracing. We have a register, and so everyone is required to sign this when you come to church. This is your name, your phone number, your email, the date, the time you arrived, the time you leave, and your signature. And so this will be on every service for the foreseeable future. And so I recommend that you come to church nice and early. I recommend you try and aim for 9:30 because it's going to take a little while to get through everything before we can actually have church again. And so ushers will be at the front. They'll have their high vis. We'll have people there showing you where to go, what to do, how to do it. And so that'll be very, very exciting this Sunday morning. So I encourage you to get there nice and early. Regarding nursery, we won't be having nursery just for the next couple of weeks. So parents, if their children can please sit with you, please don't let your children sit with other families. Please have them sit with you. Whoever's in your household, you can sit together. So bring some toys, some quiet toys, some coloring in books or whatever. If they get too loud, you can take them to the back into the nursery, or we'll set up some chairs at the back of the building. And so you can sit up the back with them if need be. So that's just the go with nursery. Unfortunately, there'll be no tea and coffee, but you can still fellowship at each other's houses afterwards. You can still fellowship at the church. I want to give you the address. It's not on Onehunga Mall. It's on Upper Municipal Place. And so if you put in the Potter's House Onehunga in Google, you'll find our address. There'll be people there. There'll be signs there. If you need more details on how to find the building, please contact me or your Connect leader or someone on this chat. They'll help you out with that. Regarding live streaming, we are going to do our best to try and still live stream this Sunday. There's a lot of effort that goes into these live streams. So we're going to do our best. So if you're watching from Australia, or if you're part of our family that you've gotten saved in the last 4 weeks and you're from overseas, or you're too far away to come to our service, we're going to do our best that you can come and watch our live stream. It'll still be running, so you can be there with us as we celebrate. Our internet's not connected as yet, but we've got a few different options we're going to work out. But soon our internet will be connected and we'll be live streaming. We'll be back on with that. 2 more things. Number 1, if you're sick, please do not come. Just stay home. Let us know. If you've got a cough or you're doing something and it's sniffles or whatever, please let us know and please stay home. Don't fake a cough so you don't have to come. If you're genuinely sick, don't come. But if I encourage everyone, do your best to come along. And finally, if you don't feel comfortable coming to churches yet, if you feel, look, I don't really want to be with too many people just yet, that's totally fine. You're still part of the family. If you've got some underlying health issues or you don't feel it's the right time for you, I completely understand. We're not going to make you cut off from the congregation. You're still going to be part of us. And so if you don't feel just safe as yet, that's completely okay. Let us know. and we'll make sure we can set up some sort of live stream. We'll have something for you on Sunday morning, Sunday night in the foreseeable future. But please do let us know you're still part of our family, whether it will be online or in church. And so there'll be many other changes in the building. You'll see a lot of signs up at church. And so that'll do for now. The main news is church is back. Hallelujah. And so we're going to have some fun this weekend. So tomorrow, I'll send out a text tonight. We're going to have the cleaning team, the ushers, everyone's going to be at church, setting up, getting everything ready. We've got outreach tomorrow. We're going to try and reach some people. So Chris and myself will give you more details about that tomorrow. But come early, come faith-filled, especially Sunday morning. Come nice and early, 9:30, so you can meet people, meet some new faces, all those that you've gotten saved in this last few weeks. We can't wait to meet you, and we're going to have some church this weekend. God's going to move. So I can't wait for that. So we'll give you more details again tomorrow. But the Lord bless you, fellowship with each other, and I can't wait to say this line. I will see you Sunday. Amen. Hallelujah. The Lord bless you. Have a great night.